Guys, my name is Noni Matikela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to get inside Ket Matlala's trial. That trial of Ket Matlala. Guys, please do not sleep on that trial. Do not sleep on that trial. It's quite interesting. Okay, there's a lot going on there. Inside the Ket Matlala trial, the exclusive evidence that could shake South Africa. Guys, we need to talk about it. Please sit down. Please make time, sit down, and then we talk about this. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Noni M Podcast. The trial of alleged underworld figure and businessman Vusumuzi Ket Matlala has officially begun. And already South Africans are asking one question. Does the state really have enough evidence to prove that Ket Matlala was the mastermind behind 3 attempted assassinations? Or is this another high-profile case built on allegations that still need to be proven thoroughly inside the courtroom? Because, Sana, we have seen things in this country of ours, South Africa. Do you guys understand that? So today, we are breaking down everything that has happened in court so far, separating facts from allegations and analyzing what could become one of the biggest organized crime trials South Africa has seen in years. If you thought Senzo Mayiwa was something, please follow the Ket Matlala trial. Okay, let's get into it. The National Prosecuting Agency, prosecuting authority, has charged Ket Matlala and 4 co-accused with a total of 25 criminal charges. These include conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, money laundering, fraud, firearms offenses, and defeating the ends of justice. All 5 accused have pleaded not guilty. The state case is unusually because prosecutors are not simply trying to prove one shooting. They are attempting to convince the court that Matlala allegedly operated as the organizer and financier of a coordinated murder for hire network. According to the prosecution, the alleged enterprise involved identifying targets, arranging attacks, paying those involved, and then disguising those payments through business transactions. Matlala denies every allegation. The indictment revolves around 3 separate alleged assassination attempts. The first involves businessman and taxi operator Joe Ferrari Sibanyoni, who allegedly survived an ambush in 2022. The second involves actress influencer Tebogo Tobejane, who was shot while driving in 2023. She survived, but one of her passengers suffered serious injuries. The third involves music producer DJ Fentis, who prosecutors say was also targeted. The state argues that these were not isolated incidents, but part of a common criminal plan. That is an extraordinary allegation. And now the prosecution has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So what has actually happened in court so far? The state called its first witness, security officer Bethwell Cele Undosi, and his testimony immediately grabbed attention. Cele told the court that he was on duty at the Centurion Golf Estate when he witnessed what he described as a military-styled ambush. According to his evidence, a white BMW entered the estate. 3 men were inside. He testified that 2 of them got out carrying AK-47 assault rifles before opening fire on a Volkswagen Golf parked behind a Ferrari. Cele said bullets started flying everywhere. He told the court he drew his service pistol and returned fire, firing around 15 shots in an effort to stop the attackers. He described the scene as resembling the Wild West movie. Guys, he described the scene as like that, guys. It is a dramatic testimony, I tell you. It paints a picture of a carefully planned attack executed with military-grade weapons. But here is the important legal point that many people are overlooking. As powerful as the testimony sounds, it does not yet prove that Cat Matlala planned the attack. It proves there was an alleged shooting. It does not prove who ordered it. That distinction is critical. Then came one of the first major courtroom battles. The prosecution attempted to introduce CCTV footage that says captured the shooting. This could have been a major breakthrough. Video evidence often becomes one of the strongest forms of evidence in a criminal trial, but the defense immediately objected. Their argument was straightforward. They said the state had not yet laid the proper legal foundation for the footage to be admitted. In other words, they argued that the prosecution had not established who recorded it, how it was stored, whether it had been altered, or whether the legal requirements for admitting it had been met. The judge agreed for now. That is serious, Kesan. The CCTV footage was not admitted at this stage. Instead, the court first needed to call witnesses capable of authenticating the footage before it could become evidence. That may sound technical, but it is actually a significant moment. Without proper authentication, even compelling video footage cannot simply be accepted by a court. That early ruling gave the defense an important procedural victory. That's not enough, though. Cross-examination has also begun. Defense lawyers are carefully testing every aspect of the eyewitness testimony. Could he clearly see the attackers? Was his view obstructed? Can he genuinely identify anyone involved? How reliable are his observations during a chaotic gunfight? These are exactly the kinds of questions experienced defense team ask, because eyewitness testimony can sometimes be mistaken, especially during fast-moving and high-stress events. But here is where this trial becomes even more interesting. The prosecution's real case may not depend on eyewitness at all. Instead, it appears to be building towards something much bigger. Investigators say they intend to present cell phone records, financial transactions, forensic evidence, ballistics, and communications allegedly linking the accused together. Perhaps the biggest issue will be the money. According to the state, money moved through business accounts after some of the alleged attacks. The prosecutors also alleged that 70,000 funeral parlor invoice was fabricated to disguise payments connected to the alleged criminal enterprise. If the state can prove that these financial transactions were deliberately designed to conceal payments for attempted murders, it will significantly strengthen its case. But if the defense can demonstrate that the payments were legitimate business transactions, or that there is no direct connection between the money and the alleged attacks, the prosecution could face serious challenges. This is why financial evidence is often just as important as eyewitness testimony. Money leaves records. Records can tell stories. The question is whether those stories point to criminal conduct or innocent business dealings. Another major battlefield will be the cell phone evidence. Investigators are expected to rely on communication records to show who spoke to whom, when they communicated, and whether those conversations line up with the alleged planning of the attacks. If prosecutors can establish a clear chain linking communications, financial transactions, and the alleged shooters, the state theory becomes much stronger. If those links are weak, incomplete, or open to alternative explanations, the defense will almost certainly argue that suspicion is not proof. And that is where this case stands today. The state has presented evidence describing an alleged violent attack. It has outlined a theory of an organized criminal enterprise, but it has not yet publicly presented evidence directly proving that Cat Matlala ordered the shootings. That evidence, if it exists, is expected to come later through forensic experts, financial investigators, digital analysts, and additional witnesses. Until then, the court has heard allegations, not conclusions. The burden remains entirely on the prosecution to to prove every element of its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The trial is still in its early stages, but it is already shaping up to be one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in the criminal space in South Africa. Every witness, every bank record, every cell phone download, and every forensic report could shift the direction of the case. Will the state successfully connect all the pieces into one coherent picture, or will the defense dismantle those links one by one? Only the evidence presented in court will answer that question. We'll continue following every major development and breaking it down in simple terms as this high-profile trial unfolds. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell so you never miss our latest courtroom coverage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next upcoming video. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.